Hello everyone, this video is not sponsored. I bought this set for about $25 US, which seems to be its regular selling price, and it's from a company called Wange, W-A-N-G-E. However, if you looked at the box that I got this in, you would think that I'm lying. The box says dOvOb is the name of the brand, and dOvOb, the brand, has a number of things on, for example, Amazon. I forget if I got this on Amazon or elsewhere, but yep. Wange is one of those companies that sells to other brands a lot. This is a very common practice in the Chinese brick and toy and RC and everything market. But the actual manufacturer, as far as I can tell, original manufacturer is Wange. Any time that you see pretty much this exact model, it's going to be from them, just under different brand names. This has 183 pieces, but that is also a bit deceptive. For the size of this thing, you would expect it to have a lot more parts. However, like the last Wange set that I showed you, that I did a review of, this one has some different style of parts. Specifically parts that come on plastic runners or sprues or trees like these. These are the exact ones. And you do have to cut them off. Technically, you can break them off, but it's highly recommended that you use a set of flush cutters or single-sided hobby-style cutters to get them off of there so that you can get relatively clean cuts around the edges. This is a very common thing in the plastic model building world, including the lower end stuff where it's snap-based, where you don't have to use glue or anything. However, it's relatively uncommon in the brick-based world, and I was hoping to encounter stuff like this at some point. I wasn't expecting it, but I was hoping that I would encounter something like that just because I personally do a lot of building of things that require cutting out parts, like Gundam plastic models and other things like that. And it's very, very enjoyable. And it's interesting to see kind of a combination between that and brick building here. And that's how you get these very specialized parts. Now I realize and I recognize a lot of people just carte blanche do not like specialized pieces or what they consider to be excessively specialized pieces, something that's made specifically to represent, for example, the cockpit of an SR-71 or the engine inlet or the wing tips or the vertical stabs. You know, those are very specific pieces. And as a result of the company using those very specific pieces here, they've come up with a model that looks fantastically good, especially for its size. Had they not used those specialized pieces, well, guess what? It wouldn't look this good. How do I know? Because there are plenty of models out there on the market, as well as custom designs from fans that are in this general range of size that represent SR-71s, and they just don't look nearly as good. No disrespect intended. They don't look nearly as good. Unfortunately, a lot of the dialogue about sets like this comes back down to the use of those specialized parts, and a lot of people feel that it is invalid for a company to make a product like this because why doesn't a customer or a consumer just buy a proper plastic model at that point? Well, a proper plastic model in this kind of scale is going to take you weeks and weeks and weeks to build. You have to paint every single part. You have to weather the things. You have to glue everything. It's a completely different thing. It doesn't make sense to even really compare the two. Even if it was a snap-based model, still many, many hours. And most people don't want to do all that. If you want to talk about a pre-built plane like a die cast, most of the time you're not going to get a die cast of this size. You're not going to get a pre-made plastic thing of this size. And if you do, it's going to be crazy, crazy expensive. So I personally feel very strongly that the existence of this is valid, that there is a market for things like this that can be put together by people who like putting brick-based things together, but also want something that's going to be reasonably sized, not huge, and yet still look like the thing that it's supposed to be, which this totally does. But here's what I don't like about this set. It comes with stickers that are not good. At least the model, the specific one that I got, came with a sticker sheet with poor adhesive powers. Just doesn't stick. None of the stickers stick all that well. So they tend to pull away from the surface a little bit. Now, I might be able to end up fixing this for myself because I'm going to put a matte clear coat over this whole thing, just like I did with my last set from Wange, because I want it to look even better still. And when I put that layer of matte clear over the top with just a regular rattle can from Krylon, it's probably going to help to seal these down. I'll push them down, try to get them to stay in place, and then go over the top, and hopefully it'll add some mechanical adhesion to the parts. I've been working on plastic models just today, which is why I have some paint on my fingers and such. But nobody should be expected to do that. Nobody should be expected to have to do something additional to get stickers to simply stick. So this is not acceptable, in my opinion. Although the edges only roll up a little bit, I don't think that they're going to keep rolling up. I don't think it's going to keep getting worse. But still, that should be in a better state. The average person who wants to keep these, who doesn't find this to be an acceptable situation where they roll up a little bit and wants to keep them flatter to the surface so they're not going to be collecting dust around the edges where the adhesive is exposed, we'll come back with just a bit of clear tape. Thin, single-sided clear tape. Shiny, glossy, crystal clear. That'll do the job for you. But nobody wants to have to do that. It's going to add extra surface deformation and stuff. It's just not a good situation. I did also move the position of the 937 stickers. They said to put them over here at the inlets, but this is a more accurate position for what little it's worth. But all of the stickers in this, I think, are poor quality, unfortunately. And I don't know if I just got a bad batch or anything, but it's definitely something to watch out for and something that I wanted you to see very clearly, just in case you're on the fence about this thing. And maybe if that bothers you, that will push you away from buying this so that you won't have a negative experience, an unexpectedly negative experience, if you do purchase the thing. Looking at the underside, the underside looks good as well. They do have specialized parts, top and bottom, some of them, to complete the look. Overall, I also want to show you what this looks like compared to just a random minifigure from another company. Sorry about that. Lost it for a second. Doesn't scale to this guy. It's quite a bit smaller, but just, to give you a little bit of idea of what that would look like if you wanted to have them together. And more specifically, the size of this, sorry, I didn't check this out in advance, but it is approximately 44 centimeters in length all the way to the tip, which is taking you just past 17 inches. But that's pretty much all there is to see about this one. This did have just a few leftover parts. Oh, four, more than a few, 4 pieces. And then they had this part separator, brick separator, is actually pretty interesting. I like the texture right there. I like the sturdiness of it. And I especially like this. It's like, it's retractable for dealing with Technic pins and axles and things. Just kind of cool because, this is your pry bar end right here. Probably not sharp enough there. Probably could have made that a little bit longer, but this was just a fun little inclusion on their own little tool for what little that is worth. And then this is what the sticker sheet looked like. It's quite a few stickers, isn't it, for such a small thing? And especially, again, a shame that the adhesive is not that great, at least on the one that I got. At the end of the day, I personally, speaking as myself, like the SR-71, like this model, like how it went together. And I can deal with the sticker problem for myself. And like I said, I'm going to give it a top coat to take some of the shine away and make it look better. And I'll briefly share what that looks like. But as a reviewer, I have to be responsible and tell you, well, it has the problems that I showed you, especially with the stickers and, the fact that you have to cut pieces, which a lot of people are not going to be expecting. And I will say that, like, on the box for this particular one from dOvOb, they don't even give you the warning. Like, Wange itself gives you the warning that parts are going to need to be cut, that it has parts on runners. But dOvOb did not do that, and that's bad because a lot of people are never going to expect that out of something brick-based. It's all about setting expectations at that point. A company needs to advertise products honestly, and they need to set expectations so that a person who buys the thing knows what they're getting, and doesn't have any potentially unpleasant surprises, which the need to use something like this, a tool to cut things, a sharp tool to cut things in a brick-based set, is definitely not normal. I'm happy with it, again, personally. I think it's cool. I think the end result is fantastic, especially for its size. You look at the competition out there, nowhere close to this. Some people won't like having the specialized parts at all, just on principle. I think it's valid. I think that, excuse me, my dog is barking in the background, but I'm just going to keep going forward. I think it's valid for this to exist, and I'm happy with it. But I hope that I've given you some fair warnings about some potentially negative things about this. And therefore, I hope that I've brought you some value with this video. Thank you very much for watching. Appreciate your time, appreciate your support, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.